Just before midnight on March 12, 1928, a dam holding back nearly 12 billion gallons of water collapsed in a canyon north of Los Angeles. The engineer who built it was one of the most celebrated in American history, the man behind the Los Angeles Aqueduct, a street named in his honor. 12 hours earlier, he'd personally inspected a leak at the dam's base and called it nothing to worry about. By the 1920s, William Mulholland was arguably the most powerful and respected engineer in California. Self-taught without a formal engineering degree, he'd risen to become chief engineer of the Los Angeles Bureau of Waterworks and Supply, and had already built the Los Angeles Aqueduct, a massive project that redirected water over 200 miles to fuel the city's explosive growth. He was, by any measure, a legend in his field. To keep up with that growth, Mulholland pursued a new reservoir, the St. Francis Dam, built in San Francisco Canyon, about 35 miles northwest of downtown Los Angeles. Construction began in 1924 and finished in 1926, designed to hold nearly 12 billion gallons of water for the city's expanding water supply. Mulholland selected the site and oversaw its design largely on his own authority. He did not commission a detailed geological survey of the canyon floor before construction, a decision that would prove central to what followed. Here's the geological problem nobody fully understood at the time. The canyon walls the dam anchored into were made of two very different types of rock on either side. The eastern side, unknown to Mulholland's team, sat on the site of an ancient landslide that had reactivated once the reservoir began applying pressure and moisture to it. The western side was anchored into a conglomerate rock that, when saturated with water, lost much of its structural strength, becoming closer to loose gravel and mud than solid stone. Investigators later found that Mulholland had, at one point during construction, raised the dam's height from its original design without widening the base to match. That decision reduced the safety margin built into the original design at exactly the moment the structure needed more strength, not less. None of this was something Mulholland could have easily discovered using standard engineering practices of the 1920s. Detailed subsurface geological investigation of dam sites wasn't yet a widespread professional standard. But even by that era's own norms, later analysis found Mulholland's team hadn't used geological information that was already available from other nearby projects he had personally worked on. On the morning of March 12, 1928, the dam's keeper, Tony Harnischfeger, noticed a leak on the western side of the dam, muddy water, a warning sign that foundation material might be washing out from beneath the structure. Concerned, he contacted Mulholland directly. Mulholland and his deputy drove out and inspected the dam for roughly 2 hours. They concluded the muddy water was likely caused by nearby road construction, not a structural problem with the dam itself, and pronounced the dam safe. Mulholland returned to Los Angeles. Just before midnight that same day, less than 12 hours after that inspection, the dam failed catastrophically. Nearly 12 billion gallons of water surged down San Francisco Canyon and into the valley below, sweeping through small communities and agricultural areas along a 54-mile path to the Pacific Ocean. The flood destroyed homes, farms, and a workers' camp for the Southern California Edison Company, among many other structures in its path. The death toll remains genuinely uncertain even today, estimated anywhere from roughly 400 to as many as 600 people. The range exists partly because many victims were migrant farm workers in the flood's path, whose deaths were never fully documented in official records at the time. It remains, by any accounting, one of the deadliest civil engineering failures in American history. A commission commanded by California's governor concluded that the conglomerate rock beneath the dam's western abutment was too weak for a structure of this scale, and that water had infiltrated the foundation and effectively lifted it from below. Combined with the reactivated ancient landslide on the eastern side, the dam had been anchored, unknowingly, into ground that was never stable enough to hold it. The coroner's inquest cleared Mulholland of criminal responsibility, but its conclusion was direct. The construction and operation of a major dam should never be left to the sole judgment of one person, however respected, without independent expert review. That finding became one of the disaster's most lasting legacies. Notably, Mulholland didn't deflect blame. At the inquest, he stated plainly that if there had been an error in judgment, it was his. He never worked as an engineer again, and by most accounts, the disaster weighed on him for the rest of his life.
The St. Francis Dam disaster led directly to California's first meaningful dam safety legislation, requiring independent engineering review and state oversight for dam construction, a regulatory framework that influenced dam safety standards nationally, and one that, in various forms, still shapes how large infrastructure projects are reviewed today. Across the 10 failures in this series so far, a pattern keeps surfacing in different forms: a resonance nobody modeled, a phone call that skipped review, a mountain that kept moving, a leak dismissed as unremarkable. Different structures, different decades, different countries, but again and again, the same underlying lesson. A warning sign is only useful if someone with the authority to act on it is willing to listen.